Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and in today's video we are doing another part where we rank the top 25 best cars for each manufacturer. We did this with a ton of different manufacturers already. I think we did it with Dodge, maybe, I don't even know if we did it with Dodge, but we did it with a bunch is what I'm trying to say. And today we're doing it with Porsche or Porsche. I'm just gonna warn you guys real quick. I'm gonna say Porsche because I grew up saying Porsche. I like the way Porsche rolls off the tongue better than Porsche. I understand you're supposed to pronounce it Porsche though. I'm gonna get 700 comments. I didn't pronounce it correctly. I'd like to pronounce it this way, okay? I'm going to pronounce it this way. And by the way, we're not going to be ranking any individual trim levels, because if that's the case, this would just be a ton of different 911s. 911 GT2, 911 GT3, 911 GT3 RS. Like, that's just, we're not going to rank like trim levels and certain different trims. Just like full-on cars from Porsche. But yeah, this is another part of our series. Let me know what other brands you'd like to see in the comment section below. And the song of the day is called Gotti by Jack Boys and Pop Smoke, and I think Travis Scott is in it. Yeah, Travis Scott is in it. Yeah, that is right there. Travis Scott is in it. It's a rap song, but it's a classic. My baby love Coco. It's such a good song. It's such a good song. If you like rap music, go give it a listen. But without further ado, let's go right into the list with number 25. And that, my friendos, goes to the 550 Spider. I've mentioned this one before, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm not the biggest like super classic cars fan. When it comes to like 50s, 60s, even a little bit of the 70s cars, it's just not my style, not my speed. And that's what the 550 Spider is. Am I gonna sit here and act like it didn't do an incredible amount for Porsche as a brand? No, because if I did that, I would want you to come to my house and pull out my teeth with a pair of pliers, because that is just a lie. But again, me personally, it's not my favorite, so it's going to be at the number 25 spot. It made the list because it deserves the list, but not my personal favorite. Also, the background footage for this, I already got the background footage for this video, so the background footage for this car is Forza gameplay. There was no good background footage. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Coming in, goodness gracious, let me try that one again. Coming in at the number 24 spot is the 911 996. I do think the 996 911 is probably the worst generation of the 911. It just didn't really do too much, and on top of that, it's not the best looking. I said it, but it's not the best looking, especially the headlights. I'm sorry, but whoever designed the headlights for the 996, nah, man, it's just not it. It's not it. You deserve to fly business class with the rest of us for the, actually, I don't even know if that's the normal class, whatever, coach. I don't ever go on airplanes. You don't deserve to even go on an airplane, actually. As a matter of fact, you deserve to take public transport, take buses everywhere, because you are just not the smartest guy. I'm not a fan of the 996. Another car that isn't really the best looking is the 968. I realized before it sounded like I was just trash talking the 996. It still is obviously an incredible car. I just think it's the worst 911. It still made the list. You know, it's still an incredible Porsche. Haha, I said it right there, but it's just not my personal style. But same with the 968. I've never been the biggest fan of these like front engine Porsches. However, they are obviously really good cars. I'm not going to deny that. They just don't look incredible in my opinion. The 968, it's, you know, an entry level Porsche, and that's what it was striving to do, and it achieved that. But in terms of like compared to the rest of them, I don't think it deserves too much higher. On top of that, it's not even that well known for the front engine Porsches, so I'm going to put it here. 22nd is also another front engine Porsche, but it's different. It's the Panamera Turbo S, the newest one. But the first gen is also pretty good too. There's two generations of the Panamera now. Dude, these cars, like people in the car community hate the Panameras. I feel like nobody ever talks about Panameras because they're not meant for really car guys. But in the grand scheme of like Porsche as a company, cars like this is what helps them, you know, stay alive. This is a family Porsche, and like that's just awesome. Like if you're a family guy and you can't afford to put all that money into a 911, then you buy a Panamera, and it's not the same thing. I'm not even going to sit here and act like it's even close to the same thing, but it's at least a sporty Porsche with 4 seats. It's long, it's safe, like it's a nice car for a family person. Honestly, same thing with the number 21 spot. So 21st place is going to the Macan Turbo S. Macan and Cayenne are Porsche's SUVs. I think the Macan is more like the crossover, whereas the Cayenne is a straight up SUV. Either way, the Macan is slightly smaller, and I love how these things are. Like, I'm not an SUV fan in the slightest bit. I've mentioned this hundreds of times. I don't really understand why people put so much effort into making sporty SUVs nowadays, which I know kind of doesn't make any sense. Sport utility vehicles. I know it doesn't make sense, but you know what I'm trying to say. But this is a pretty freaking, I've seen modified Macans, dude, they look pretty nice. Like, these things are just pretty cool cars. If I had to buy an SUV, this is definitely one of them. All right, I might be an idiot here, but coming in at the number 20 spot is going to the Porsche Mission R. I don't even know if this car actually exists. When I made this list, I put it on the list because I love the car, but then I started like looking up videos for it to try and get background footage, obviously, and every video was like fake AI edited video, like it was not real Mission R. So this car might not even exist. It might just be like a prototype. I don't care. The Mission R is sick. Okay, if it does exist, this thing's freaking awesome. It's absolutely the coolest thing I've ever seen. Unfortunately, I do believe it's an EV, which makes me just want to gouge my eyes out, and that's the reason why it's here at the number 20 spot. If it was a gas vehicle, though, this thing would be so much higher. Coming in at the number 19 spot, however, is another one that might make the old heads a little upset. The 911 first generation. Listen, again, I know what the first gen 911 did for Porsche as a brand. It's obviously, I don't gotta say that, you know, most people understand that it is a very important car in Porsche's history. It's a very important car in sports car history, okay? I get that. But in comparison to the rest of the 911s, I am not the biggest fan of the first gen. Is it an incredible car for its time? Absolutely. Did it spark Porsche as a brand? Absolutely. But am I gonna want to buy a first generation 911? Absolutely not. 18th place might be a little bit of a hot take see here, but hear your boy out. It's going to the Porsche Cayenne first generation. The very first generation of the Porsche Cayenne is, in my opinion, the first time Porsche was like, hey, we should start making some cars that are more affordable for the regular person. They should be cars that like you can drive and daily drive and not have to worry about. And that's what they did with the Cayenne. And then on top of that, they still made this thing sporty. They had Cayenne turbos, and they were sporty cars. You know, they were fun to drive if that's what you wanted. And on top of that, nowadays, dude, for the price of a first gen Cayenne, it's a really good deal. Is the reliability obviously questionable? Yeah, it's a Porsche SUV, and it's the first time Porsche tried to make an SUV. So yeah, it's going to be questionable, but it's still a freaking beast. 17th place, and hear me out, my friendo, because 17th place is going to the 914-6. This thing is like the Mazda Miata of the Porsche world. I know that makes no sense because I'm pretty sure this car came out before the Mazda Miata, but it is. It's a small rear mid-engine, I want to say, maybe mid, maybe rear, I don't know, engined Porsche that doesn't look anything like any other Porsche ever created. There's not a single Porsche that looks anything like this car does, and it just is a track monster, autocross monster. Does it have insane horsepower? No. Does it have insane space? No. Is it an insanely valuable, good-looking car? No. But if you want just an autocross beast, a 914-6 is a good option. Speaking of autocross beasts, as a matter of fact, I don't know why I said that, because pretty much every Porsche is an autocross beast. But 16th place is going to the Cayman first generation, or I believe it's the 986, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, whenever I say Caymans, I also mean Boxsters. They're the same exact car. The Cayman and Boxster first generation is an incredible car, and as of in 2025, they're an incredible deal, dude. You can find like for the Boxsters in particular, you can find like a Boxster 986 for like 10 grand. The Caymans are a little bit more expensive at like 25 grand, but like, dude, they're track ready beasts right out of the gate. And on top of that, I love the looks of like a slightly smaller 911, which is pretty much what a Cayman is. Coming in at 15th place, however, is I would guess the most impactful Porsche of all time, the 356. The 356 was Porsche's like first real, just straight up car, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously I could be 100% horribly incorrect there, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time Porsche was like, yeah, we're making a freaking beast, and it was good. I remember watching the Ford versus Ferrari movie, and like a sign of wealth was some guy was driving the Porsche 356. So back then this car was just an iconic beast. I understand they're still an iconic beast. Again, though, I'm only putting it here at the number 15 spot because I'm not the biggest fan of these really classic cars. I would hate to own this, but I understand its importance. If putting the 356 at 15th place didn't make the old heads mad, then 14th place is definitely going to make the old heads mad, because it's the Taycan. And as we all know, the Taycan, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce this, by the way, so please cut me some slack. I've heard people call it the Taycan. I'm calling it the Taycan. I like it better that way. But as we all know, the Taycan is an electric car. And putting an electric car above the 356 is probably going to make a lot of people angry, but hear me out. The Taycan is an absolute beauty in every right. Is the electric part of it annoying? Yeah, obviously, I would have rather had this car be a gas-powered car. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's another four-door, it's another vehicle where you can fit 4 people in it, and it's beautiful. The Taycan is one of the most beautiful Porsches of all time, in my opinion. It is absolutely gorgeous. The Taycan concept was even more gorgeous, but this is still good. Speaking of gorgeous Porsches, that was kind of a bar out of nowhere. Okay, 13th place though is the 911 992, the newest generation of the Porsche 911. It is awesome. You know, it's a cool car, don't get me wrong, but my thing with the 992 is I don't think like 30 years from now, people are going to be like, the 992 was such an influential, such an impactful, such a great Porsche. I just don't. I don't think it really did that much for the Porsche 911 line. I think it's very similar to the 991, especially the front end. The front end looks, I can, if you show me a front end of a 991 and the 992, I would, good luck to me, okay? I would not have a chance of telling them apart. The rear end is okay, but I don't actually like the rear end over the 991. And again, performance-wise, obviously it does increase. Every 911 generation has increased on the previous one performance-wise, but not enough in my opinion. All right, but coming in at the 12th spot is an ironic one because it's the 928. The 928 is like pretty much Porsche's ugliest model. Okay, let's just get it. Let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Okay, yeah, we're talking about you, buddy. Calm down. The 928 is hideous. Oh, it's just not that good looking. But because of how unappealing it was, it kind of rose to popularity in that. It was a wacky, unique car, and then people started buying them. And then people started realizing, wow, while this car may be a little bit ugly, it's a really good little track car. And that's exactly what it is now. It's a front engine, good little track car that you can buy for pretty cheap. Barely. Missing out on the old top 10 spot, coming at the number 11 spot, is going to the 911 964, or the second generation of the 911. Or maybe this is a third. I actually think this is the third generation of the 911. I always get the 964 and the 930 confused with Porsches. But either way, I do think it obviously improved on the first generation. I think it's a much better looking car overall. I do believe this is a third generation, actually, now that I think about it. But either way, yeah, I think it's a good car. It's a cool car. It's really fun. Everybody loves them. Their price is through the roof. Everybody wants a 964, but I don't think it's the most iconic 911. And coming in at 10th place is, in my opinion, probably the best front engine Porsche, I should say, of all time, the 944. The 944 S2, 944 Turbo with the pop-up. First of all, it finally got it right, what they were trying to do with the 928 and 968 with the looks. They finally nailed the looks of a front engine Porsche. This car looks good compared to the 928 and the 968. It looks good. And it still had the good handling and good lightweight, cheap entry level as the other front engine Porsches did too. So in my opinion, it's just better than the 928 and 968 in every way. Coming in at 9th place, however, is like, in my opinion, the 992, but just better in a lot of ways. The 911 991, I understand that it's technically worse in performance aspects because it's obviously slightly older than the 992, but I think this is the car where in 20 years they're going to be talking about it. I think the 991 was significant, made some significant changes to the 911 heritage, made some impactful increases. Like, people were talking about Porsches again when the 991 came out. I understand there's always been Porsche fans, there always will be Porsche fans, but the 991 kind of put them back on the map, in my opinion, at least for like the new generation of car enthusiasts. But 8th place, and hear me out here, is the car that I'd actually personally rather own over a 991 911, the Cayman 718. It's, like I said before with the other Cayman, the Boxster counts here as well, and they're pretty much just pocket 911s, in my opinion. I understand that's not exactly the case. They don't have the same motor. They're really not that similar in any way, but that's how I think of them, and I like smaller cars better, and I love the looks of the Cayman so much. I just know this is the type of car that I would much rather own than a 911. I love this car. I love everything about it. The GT4 is gorgeous. The GT4 RS is an absolute track monster. Like, these things are just incredible cars. The 718 Cayman is sexy. I cannot wait for the next generation of the Porsche Cayman. But coming in at the 7th location, however, my friendo, is the 911 993. I love the 993, man. I'm a big 90s cars fan, and it's a 90s car, okay? So obviously I'm a big fan of this car. It's just how the cookie crumbles, my friendo. It's also the first time, though, in my personal opinion, that Porsche went all out on a 911 with the 911 GT2. When they made the 911 GT2 993, that thing was a freaking monster. They had the 911 GT2 Cups, and they were racing. Oh my god, watching the 911 GT2 Cup races on like YouTube or whatever nowadays takes me freaking back. I wasn't even alive during the 90s, but it takes me back to the 90s. Coming in at 6th place, in my opinion, is so forgotten about all the time, and it's a crime. The 911 GT1 Strassenversion. Strassenversion, I'm pretty sure just means road version. I don't know, I don't speak German though, so don't quote me on that. But it's a road-going version of their 911 GT1 race car. That is freaking perfect. This is like Porsche's true first hypercar. This thing was an absolute monster. I'm gonna say it, and I'll say it 5,000 times. I'd rather own a 911 GT1 Strassenversion than a McLaren F1 GTR. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I love these cars. They're absolutely incredible. They're racing legends. Like, they're just beasts. Speaking of absolute racing legends, however, coming in at 5th place is going to the Porsche 959. The 959. one of the most sexy looking cars of the 90s, period. This thing was unbelievably good looking. It's a weird combination, okay? I'm gonna be the first to admit it. It has like a 911 front end, and then the rear end looks like, looks almost like a JDM car kind of. It looks like an NSX or like a Mark IV Supra with the wing on the back. It looks interesting. It's got an interesting combo there, but it works for some reason. It's wide. It was good at everything they put it into. They put it into rally racing of all things, and this thing dominated. But they put it into every single sort of like racing program, and it absolutely dominated. The 959 is incredible. But coming in at 4th place is my personal favorite generation of the Porsche 911, the 911 997. Obviously, the 911 is Porsche's like flagship car. Everybody knows about the 911 Porsches. And so obviously the 911s are pretty good for that, right? Yeah, obviously. And the 997 is my personal favorite. Of all the 911s out there, I want a 997 the most. I don't know why. I just think it's got like the perfect combo of like, it still has some, you know, rawness to it. Whereas the 991 and 992s after it, I feel like kind of let go of that a little bit. But it also looks modern still and looks like really, really good. Whereas the 996 previously didn't really do that. And I love that. Also, I've seen 997s in person. I saw a 997 GT3 one time, and it was just such an aggressive looking Porsche. I like them a lot. I don't know why. However, while I say the 997 is my favorite Porsche, I do believe that the 911 930 is the best 911 of all time. It is, in my opinion, the most impactful, and it is just the one that like everybody talks about. Everybody looks at pictures of 930s. Everybody has pictures of 930s on their wall. It went from the first generation 911 being like, yeah, this is a sports car for sure. Like, yeah, we made a sports car. People are liking it. To the 930 being like, okay, they're not here to play. You know, they're here to freaking kick booty cheeks and take names. All right, that's what they were doing with the 911 930, and they absolutely nailed it. However, coming in at 2nd place, my friends, is going to the wonderful Porsche Carrera GT. I don't really think I have to tell you much about the Carrera GT. Doug DeMiro, who's driven like every single car ever made for some reason, loves the Carrera GT. I'm pretty sure he owns one, if I'm not mistaken. That should be enough right there to tell you like, yeah, okay, this is clearly a good car. This guy's literally driven like every car ever. He obviously knows what is a good car, and the Carrera GT is one of those. Is it hard to handle? Sure. I mean, it's what killed Paul Walker, unfortunately, so that's obviously horrible. But at the same time, its sound is incredible. It looks incredible. I saw one of these in person. I went to a car museum up in New York, and I saw one of these. Oh my God. It's one of those cars where like if I had it, I would not make any modifications to it. And that's saying something. Almost every car in the world I would want to modify and make it my own. The Carrera GT is one of them that I wouldn't. Honorable mention time, and we got 4 actually, because usually we like to put the race cars in the honorable mention spot because I feel like it doesn't count as a production. It's not a production car, obviously, so I don't put it on the regular list. But obviously Porsche's racing history is absolutely massive, so I couldn't choose just one honorable mention, so we're gonna go over 4 of them. First is a 935 Moby Dick. First of all, why did they name it that? Don't ask me. I don't know. But yeah, it's a pretty racing legend. It had like the silhouette aspect to it. I love cars from that era, and it's a pretty cool car. They tried to make like a new version of it, and it's still cool, don't get me wrong, but nowhere near the original. The second honorable mention is going to the 911 GT3R, any generation of it. We've obviously had like, I think 3 911 GT3Rs now, the 997, the 991, and now the 992, and it's pretty much the 911 GT3 RS, but like actually racing version of it, like the actual race spec version. It's a GT3 Cup cars, and they're just gorgeous. Obviously, the 911 GT3s are iconic in terms of motorsports. The next is a 917. Talk about aggressive rear end. The rear end of a Porsche 917 is unbelievably cool looking. You can see the back tires and see how absolutely wide they are, and the fin that comes up in the rear end. Oh my God, it's incredible. Obviously, its racing history was also right there along with it. And finally, for the honorable mentions is the Porsche 962. The 962 was such a good freaking Group C car that like 3 or 4 other companies I can think of made 962 variants and like tried selling them as like their own little hypercars because of how good the car's platform just was in general. Like Chupin, for example, made a 962. Like this thing was just unreal. It was unreal. It was beating everybody. But first place, my favorite Porsche, and in my opinion, just the best Porsche of all time. And I know it's kind of a disservice to car guys, but hear me out. It's the 918 Spider. Not only do people hate it when people talk about modern cars for some reason and say that they're incredible, and the 918 Spider is obviously a pretty modern car, but they also, car guys in general, hate hybrids. I understand. So do I. However, when that hybrid is a 2.1 second 0 to 60 hybrid that looks like this 918 Spider, sounds like the 918 Spider, I can't deny the fact that this thing is an absolute beast. Do I hate hybrids, electric motors, all that baloney, any sort of like fake power? Yeah, I do. Everybody does. But the 918 Spider uses it and is like, yeah, okay, I'm sorry that we're using hybrid to make a hypercar, but here's the result. Are you still mad? And you can't say yes. You can't. It's not possible. The 918 Spider is an incredible car. It looks gorgeous. It obviously performs incredibly. It is a beast, and in my opinion, the best Porsche of all time. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video of the top 25 best Porsches of all time. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see in the comment section down below, and let me know what other car brands you'd like to see. I know we just did like ranking all like 25 cars from a car brand yesterday. I think we did it, or the last video I should say. I think we did it on, what did we do it? Oh, Mitsubishi. Yeah, we did a Mitsubishi one just like 2 days ago, and so you're probably like, why are we doing another one? I felt like it. I don't really have any other excuse besides that. I just felt like making the video, man. I don't know. I was feeling like talking about Porsches today, so I talked about them. But let me know what brands. Somebody said Plymouth. That should be a fun one. The top 25 best Plymouths of all time. I'll do that. I'll do that for show. It's gonna be hard for me to even find 25 Plymouths, so I feel like I don't think they even made 25 of them. So that one might be pretty tough. I might have to include a lot of cars that I don't know anything about, which I hate doing that, but I probably will have to do it. So maybe that one will be next. But if somebody offers a better suggestion, then I'll do that. Obviously, the thing is, though, I do want to try to keep the really big ones, the ones that like people are big fans of, obviously towards the end, because I like to separate them. You know, if I just talk about like all the cool brands right out the gate, then the rest of the series of like ranking 25 cars from other brands that nobody really cares about is just gonna be boring. No one's gonna want to watch it because it's gonna be brands that are like so niche and unique. So I like to do like some random ones in there. That's why when somebody said Plymouth, I was like, that's a good idea, because well, obviously Plymouth is a, you know, respectable brand, don't get me wrong. It's not like one of the most well-known brands out there or whatever. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and das vidanya. Have a nice night.